And thank you for everyone that's sticking around. I know that this topic has been brought up probably a few times for everyone, and I know that it's the topic that you're here for. It's not the networking drinks straight after, so appreciate it. First of all, I just want to say that I think we've probably all got something in common here today. No idea how the next 30 minutes is really going to go, but we've got great panel presenters here with us today. So the purpose isn't to scare everyone around cyber risk and cyber threat and where it could take your business. It's more just to give some insightful ideas that you can think about to better protect. So the key conversation points that we'll talk to will be some macro trends, some common causes of customer security events that have been seen by our panelists, and also traits the panel tend to see when it comes to a successful story. We'll also touch on cyber insurance and how potentially cloud solutions can help to support that. So I'm not actually going to go one by one with the panel speakers that we've got today. I'm just going to get them all up and we're going to give them a quick clap and we're going to crack straight on with this session. So, if everyone can come up, that would be blooming amazing. Perfect. Are we on? Yes, everyone can hear me. Okay, so guys, I just want to quickly let you guys introduce yourselves to everyone, let them know where you work, what you do, and why you're the experts on the stage today.
Awesome. I guess I'll go first. So my name's Nick Cuneo. I am a principal architect at Amazon Web Services. I've got a long career working in financial services across most of the big four banks, across wealth, banking, retail banking, and of course insurance. For the last 4 years at Amazon, I've been responsible for looking after our large general insurance customers across Australia and New Zealand. But I also get to kind of dip in and play with some of the cool tech that the insurtech companies are also building on our platform as well. I'm also part of our security technical field community within AWS. So we're expected to specialize within a given domain. Security is mine, and I'm part of the customer incident response team. That means I get called in when customers are having a bad day security-wise. Let me tell you, that's a very interesting job. Every day is different with that one. Pleased to be here today, and hopefully we can share some interesting insights.
Simone?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Simone Herbert-Lowe. I'm the founder of Law and Cyber, and we provide cyber resilience services, including legal advice and education. I've worked in the insurance industry, connected to the insurance industry for around 30 years, starting as a litigator and then in-house in claims in a professional indemnity insurer, and then working in risk management and strategy. So my experience in cyber is probably started around 6 or 7 years ago, handling claims against law firms that either had a cyber incident or had claims against them as a result of email-enabled fraud. What I saw was pretty scary, had a big impact on me, and I decided to start my own business. And I'm quite passionate around education in this area.
Thanks. Graham?
My name's Graham Chi. I'm the co-founder of B Cyber. I wear a number of hats. We run an accounting firm, a tax firm, hold an AFSL, ACL, and an interest in digital technology. Why we started in the cybersecurity was many of our family offices that we were dealing with, they just didn't know where to start. And what we were starting to see was the cyber that people were looking at was more technology. However, what we've seen recently is that many of the attacks are not just pure tech. They are just not tech. They're like once 20 years ago, imitation used to be the best form of flattery. It's probably the worst now because people are imitating you out there, every one of you. Everybody is getting some sort of scam message, whether it's an SMS, whether it's an email. You probably get more email scams than anything else coming across. So that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I just want to try and engage the audience on this one, just by like raise of hand. How many of you in the room today have had the topic of cybersecurity come up or tried to educate yourselves around it in the last 12 months? So quite a few. Second question, who's still kind of confused as to what you should do when it comes to cybersecurity? Yeah, look, it's one of those topics that can be quite daunting. So I think the purpose of this Q&A with the team on the panel today is just to try and get some useful points across that people can take away and hopefully kind of embed into how they move things forward. So with that in mind, Graham, I might just start with you. Why do you see the number of cyber attacks increasing even when we have so many new regulations and awareness around it?
I think the biggest problem is that we always see it just as a tech problem. It's far from just a tech problem with it. I think you need to consider this as a total fraud problem than anything else. It's all about money. Sometimes it's about just disruption, but it's all about money. I won't go on about some of the cases because they're all out there for everybody to read, but I think thinking that a checklist, whether it's ASD8 or NIST or whatever you want to call it, is going to solve your problem, you are so far away from the target. It's a red, green, orange. What is it going to do? It doesn't do anything. By the time you got to the end of NIST, which is 1,200 items, it's out of date.
So how do you see the future playing out for cyber?
It's going to be all about people. And I think Simone will probably talk about that. It's about the culture, it'll be about the training, it'll be about how you talk to people. It's trying to convert the cynics and the skeptics out there that it is more than just a tech or it's not my problem. Everybody would have heard that. It's not my problem, it's the tech's problem. And I think what you will probably see, and it's showing up on LinkedIn, there's 4 times the amount of jobs advertised for compliance than cybersecurity. Yet people need to start to consider what they need to do and whether boards are just doing it for compliance purposes. They need to be able to say, well, I'm protecting the business, but I'm also protecting the customer because they're the ones that are vulnerable. Like the data that is lost out there is actually used for something else. It's not to attack the company. Like an example is probably your health data. What could they do with it? A lot. So that's the sort of thing.
And Nick, I know being at the forefront of kind of cloud technology, is there anything that you might want to add there?
Yeah, I guess maybe some observations and trends that I'm seeing on my side. So I think it's talked about in kind of most cybersecurity conferences, but the skills gap is still proving extremely problematic. At Amazon Web Services, we're working with a really broad spectrum of customers, everyone from startups who are, may only have a couple of employees, all the way up to really large enterprise. And across that spectrum, and I'm having conversations with a CISO, I'm having conversations with a startup founder, and it's the same type of conversation every time. It's I can't find people with the right skill sets, and so this is problematic. And the last set of stats that I was reading was 1.5 million shortfall in cybersecurity professionals globally. We're looking at around 30,000 plus over the next couple of years within Australia itself. So trying to fill that skills gap is going to be a challenge that business is going to have to try and meet. I think it's going to be effective to look at it along 2 different dimensions. One of those is to actually engage early careers and students and late high school students that are starting decide which career paths they're going down and doing a lot more to get them excited about cybersecurity at those junctures. We don't have enough people coming into STEM type careers to start with. From that small cohort, we have a much smaller cohort that's actually choosing cybersecurity as a specialization. And then specifically within cloud, that's even another smaller cohort that actually understands, cloud services itself. So it's a much smaller set of people and pool of resources to pull from. So engaging those students early, there's a couple of things that we're doing actively right now. We engage with students that are taking vet courses. This is year 11, 12 high school students, getting them industry placement, coming and working within Amazon over their subjects that lead up to their HSC. I'm also quite active in our SEC EDU program. And so we've partnered with the University of New South Wales, and as part of the IT degree there, we actually offer an entire subject that's run in cooperation with UNSW, and we embed our cloud security expertise and subject matter experts into that, and we have students that will go through a whole process of developing a threat detection or an incident response solution from the ground up. They learn about cybersecurity, they learn about cloud technology as well, and so when they come out with that degree, they've already got skills to enter the workforce, which is fantastic. The secondary thing is about kind of broadening the pool of talent that we want to pull from for cybersecurity skill sets. So we think being more diverse, taking people with different backgrounds, different skill sets for a broader set of industries and cultures, and maybe even taking on people that have zero cybersecurity expertise at the moment, but investing in those people, training them up, and trying to kind of meet that shortfall in skill sets, through enablement and training on the job itself. Outside of that, I don't know if I can keep going, but one more I'll throw in there is just around a trend towards data protection. So there is a strong focus. I think this is from twofold. One is increasing regulatory pressure around privacy, data protection. We see that with the Privacy Act locally, GDPR amongst others, but also just the news and what we see and reading every day, whether it's Medibank, Optus, and all these data breaches that are making headlines over the last 24 months. That's increasing the conversations that I'm having around data protection. A lot of businesses are now asking the question, do I need to collect this data? If I don't need to collect it, let's not store it entirely, which is a really good conversation to have. And a lot of businesses are realizing they don't know what data they actually have on their systems. So we're doing a lot of work with artificial intelligence, machine learning, to help them identify what PII data do they have, how can they protect it, how can they encrypt their backups, do data bunkers and air-gap data bunkers to protect themselves against ransomware and some of these threats that are emerging more commonly.
Thank you. And probably one more follow-up question there. Given your exposure to a broad range of both large and small businesses, are there any common traits to organisations that have an effective cybersecurity practice that you've seen?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's funny because I think a lot of people, when they think about cybersecurity, tend to immediately latch onto tooling. Sophisticated endpoint protection software that's helping protect my business. But really, the common trait and the number one reason that we see certain customers be really successful with their security is that they have a security culture. And I hate to use the C word and culture, but in general, we mean that across an organization, everyone within that company feels they have some responsibility and role to play within the security spectrum. And it's not just we throw that over the side to the security team just before we take something live to production. It's actually shifted left. You might hear this called DevSecOps is another word that's commonly termed, but that real focus around security being a shared responsibility across the entire organization, everyone's doing their part, and it's thought about very early if you're doing software development up front. I think a second thing is for large enterprises that are successful with security, they are very forward-leaning with their legal compliance and risk teams, and so there's a good open communication channel between the technology people that are implementing the controls and then these other parts of the business that are also trying to protect the company, and there's very clear exchange of what's required and the controls to meet those. And then I'd say finally, I spoke about the skills shortfall. One of the other ways in which we can try and meet that gap in skill sets is to depend heavily on automation and automate as much of the security processing, threat detection, response, and that whole life cycle. Automate as much as you can. And so those companies that invest heavily in automation tend to be really strong in their security posture overall.
And that probably leads me quite nicely into a couple of questions for you, Simone, on kind of the cyber culture side and how you can build that culture into businesses. So when it comes to building a well-educated business unit, do you believe it varies between small businesses and large businesses as to how you'd educate an organisation?
So there are commonalities for everyone, right? Impersonation, fraud, phishing, strong login credentials, understanding what malicious software is, ransomware, data theft, and human error, right? So that's across everyone. But what I think in particular is there's a lot of nuances around people's roles and what industries they're in. So, for example, in the legal profession where I'm from, one of the biggest exposures is funds transfer frauds because lawyers manage trust accounts. And a lot of that, there's no computer intrusion or account intrusion at all. It's just somebody falling for a scam email. The biggest breach of trust case I know of, having worked in that area for 20 years and amount in the tens of millions of dollars, happened as a result of a fraudulent email where a very senior lawyer just believed his client who had actually fabricated an email from the person who owned the money. And so education around things like that is really, really important. I've written an online course for people in the built environment. Now, I didn't know until I wrote that, but it was actually possible to hack a crane using a remote control. So in the built environment, you're going to be more worried about infrastructure and obviously security of critical infrastructure. I've also written a course for luxury retail, and for them, the concern is their staff not appreciating. So if you've got a business that has gift vouchers for $50,000, you want your staff to be really vigilant around, is this gift voucher genuine, right? So there's common themes across everything, but then you have nuances according to what industry you're in. And regardless if you're in a small business or a big business, certain roles are high risk. So if you're managing money in accounts or IT, then you have a particular risk exposure as well.
So I suppose just thinking more generally, like where do you think people and businesses should start with education? Like what's a good starting point?
Yeah, so this is where I feel really strongly that a tick-the-box compliance is not the answer. You want education that is meaningful and compelling so that people think this will happen to me. Because the biggest assumptions I hear again and again is I'm too small to be a target, right? Once you start thinking that you're too small to be a target, that you need to be a target to be a victim, or that I can outsource this to the IT department, you're already behind the game. Because what you want is everyone in your business understanding that they could be the target, and you know you're never too smart or too junior or too important to be a target. So there's kind of constant themes like that you know you're building that culture, and so I think that kind of foundational education around that is really important.
Last question, I suppose, for you. Do you think there's any legal implementations for getting that right or wrong?
Do you mean implication? Like for
100%?
Yeah, 100%. So if we, poor old Optus and Medibank, right? But look at them. Medibank, they've already announced, I think at least 3 law firms have announced potential class actions against Medibank Private, and they've said what we're going to go after Medibank Private for is breach of contract, breach of, breach of your duty of care, and breach of privacy legislation. They have, according to one media report, suffered a $1.3 billion hit in terms of the value to their reputation as a result of that. If you're someone that manages people's money, particularly professional trustees or financial advisors or whatever, you could be looking at actions for breach of trust, breach of duty of care. If you're a startup and you, say a startup or any other company really, and you suffer a loss in share value later because you haven't implemented cybersecurity, you might have your shareholders looking at something. So there's all sorts of different things, whether it's penalties under the Privacy Act. The government, I'm sure most people have heard, the government has said the penalties are going to go up to $50 million, from 2.1 to 50 million. That's a pretty big jump as a result of the recent data breaches, because they're so concerned that corporates really need to take this into account. So there's lots of legal implications for sure.
So that kind of takes us to the preventative measures, and from my side, obviously sitting on the insurance broking piece from a cyber perspective, that is seen as one of them. But in my opinion, insurance is a byproduct to a well-managed risk. So ultimately, businesses shouldn't be going out and obtaining cyber insurance to have that as a solution to a problem. I think especially if we look at kind of where the cyber insurance market has gone since about 2016 to present, it used to be very simple to obtain cyber insurance for businesses. It used to be, if you want D&O insurance, hey, why don't you try and obtain a cyber insurance along the side of it? And then we went into what was called a hard market, where businesses were expected to answer a lot of questions, numerous proposal forms, enabled to actually get those quotes, which could sometimes be quite expensive. So I think from my perspective, from a Marsh cyber perspective, and probably for everyone here on the panel today, I think preparedness is the most important thing. And there's an analogy there that I got told once, which has always stuck with me, and bear with me on this one, but imagine if your house got robbed and you had a robbery within your house, right? And you call the police come over, and as they come in, obviously you're a victim, you've been victim to a robbery within your house. But when they walk into your house, they see a bunch of stolen computers, stolen laptops, and a lot of things that will incriminate you as a person that's actually a victim. So I think translate that to cyber insurance, because what you see sometimes, especially in the media, is the victim becomes the one of investigation, and they suddenly become the one that could have done something wrong because they didn't take enough measures. So I think businesses just need to make sure, whatever the spend of what you want to put from a budget for managing cyber risk, is just to prepare yourselves so that if the worst case was to happen, this is what you've done to make sure that an investigation into your business, you've done the right thing. And that would probably be my advice. I think the insurance market has definitely stabilised. We're seeing a much better and optimistic market for cyber insurance, and we are seeing a lot more local entrants here in the Australian market. And I think, look, my opinion is very much focused on kind of that larger scale client from a Marsh perspective. So I might just pass that back to you, Nick, because I know from your side, obviously from a cloud perspective, you might see that quite differently and have some ideas around how cloud could actually have some changes and opinions to how people purchase or obtain cyber insurance.
Yeah, I think cloud's going to be really transformational here. You described the hardening of the cyber insurance market, and a lot of that came down to, insurers, underwriters didn't understand the risk on certain customers that they're underwriting. Claim volumes increased, and there wasn't enough information for them to price that risk accordingly. And that's because the customer's just filling out a questionnaire, and it's hard to validate that. And if you do want to validate it, it's time consuming. You want to send in specialists to do full audits. This is a very long tail to getting a policy created. So cloud's really unique in that the whole configuration of your IT landscape is an API call away. So you can call an API and it'll tell you when's the last time you patched this operating system or this application or this library. You can say, is my firewall correctly configured? And so all of this can now be automated. So if you've got a customer, they have their estate deployed, their IT landscape deployed on a cloud service provider, they can actually provide access. They'd have to obviously provide consent, but they could provide access to either an insurtech partner or an underwriter to suck a bunch of information out of that environment around what their overall security risk posture looks like. And so that can really accelerate the whole journey of purchasing a policy itself, more accurately understanding from the underwriter's perspective what does their posture look like so you can price it accordingly. It ends up being a win across all the stakeholders in the life cycle. So if you think about You know, the actual broker, you know, a broker can now have a more detailed conversation with the customer because they understand more about their estate. You've got the underwriter who can price the risk accordingly. You've got an insurtech who can now actually, you know, generate revenue because they're adding value to that overall workflow. You've got the cloud service provider who's going to see, you know, revenue pull through because customers are turning on more security functions and services. And then the end customer's a winner as well, right? Because they go to take out cyber insurance and they get a prioritized list of remediation actions that they should take to improve their security posture overall. So you bring all that together, I think it's going to be quite transformational. It's going to be benefits across everyone involved in the business model. But we're still at the start of that kind of runway. There's a few insurtechs based out of the US that are already doing this. We've got Coalition, you've got Corvus, and these companies will do automated scans of companies' IT estates, but only from an external-facing perspective. But now we're seeing the likes of Cowbell Insurance. We're seeing partnerships between Allianz, Swiss Re, Munich Re that are actually integrating directly with cloud service providers as well. So we're at the start of this shift, but it's going to be a big one over the next 5-10 years, particularly as more and more organizations adopt the cloud and have all of their footprint within a cloud itself.
Okay, so I think very easy to talk over when it comes to cyber, especially when you work in the cyber industry. So we're already over on time, but thank you guys for answering those questions. I don't know if we've got time for questions, but everyone probably wants a drink, so.
No, we don't actually. I think the crowd might get a bit vicious if we keep going. So
Thank you.
please everyone help me thank the panel.